all through my suffering, what kept me alive was the hope that one day I would be able to share my story with people who could help me change the system.
I know many people say you cannot put open dialogue into a box, because everyone gets his way to which he experiences it. There's no recipe, But for your story, for your life, what do you get out of open dialogue?
Open dialogue, in my opinion, is a way of meeting another person with respect. It's to be there for them, providing what they tell you that they think would help. I think the conversations in itself could be healing for a lot of people. But for me, open dialogue is first and foremost, it's the idea of meeting other people respectfully, listening to them, really listening.
Is it that keeps you coming back with your story? What is it that maybe doesn't get you tired saying it again and again, that story?
I think I hear from people who I told my story to that I'm good at telling my story. So I feel like it's my giving back to the people who helped me. Yeah. And I am both introvert and extrovert, I think, yeah. But I heard that I'm good at telling the story, so that's why I keep doing it, yeah. And it gives me, I'm horrible at feedback, but I take it with me, and so sometimes I can sit in my house and think about the compliments, and it will make my day better, yeah.
Open dialogue is very related. It's not like a recipe you can take and go, but there are some those key elements and those values that are behind it. But again, values is not something that you can just prescribe to.
No.
So with bearing that in mind, how can you introduce open dialogue values to strangers?
To strangers? I think the best way to do it is in a way to tell a case, to tell how we are working. And I think, for instance, one thing that I would have liked to tell during these days, but there wasn't time to it, it's when someone is asking, what do you do when someone doesn't want to be part of it? How do you do that? And that made me think of, we had a family, a mother called, and she said, I'm very concerned about my son. He's 15, he's not going to school, he's sitting up in the night, he's on the computer, he's playing games, and we are very worried. We don't know what it is. Can we come? And we said, of course, you can come. Then it was only the father and the mother the first time, and then they were telling about their concerns about the son. And we said, well, and about the family, and I mean, everything you start working there. And we said, it would be very nice if he would come. So they came again. They had to drive about 1.5 hours. And when they came, they said, well, he doesn't want to meet you. He's sitting in the car. We like to talk to you, but he doesn't. Okay. So we went down before we started. We opened the door. We said hello to him. We presented us. We said, we are up here. If you like to come during the meeting, you're welcome. And if you don't, it's okay. And we talked to the parents for 1.5 hours. He didn't turn up. And then we went down again and said goodbye to him and said, we hope we'll see you next time. And the third time, we had a meeting at the office of the father, and he was there. And he said, I didn't really want to be here, but I couldn't get home, so I stayed. And then we said, but it's very nice you're here. You can choose to go if you don't want to be here. You can go and sit next to a room next to if you want to, but it's very nice if you're here and just listen. So he was sitting, and then suddenly the mother was asking him some things. And then they had a dialogue, a very long one. And the father, who was a very talkative man, he was quiet, and we just listened. And when they finished, the father said, they haven't talked so much for years together. So I think we didn't go and say, you have to come and meet us. We said, come when you feel like it. So I think that's a way to introduce it, to tell how you do it and how you meet the people. And now we met 5 times, I think, and we stopped it. They said it's okay. The mother is not so worried anymore, and the son has a possibility, if he likes, to come and see us alone for his thoughts. If he chooses it, it's okay. If he doesn't, it's also okay. So that's just to tell, I think that's an okay way to say how I would introduce it.
How come open dialogue may even get a unique position among other ideas, or are they equal?
Oh, what a big question for me. I think I have to draw back the situation from the 70s when I was a student. And I was a student in Denmark. And it was very powerful talking about sociology, health, politics, and so on. Yeah? It was just after '68, and many people thought about the revolution, equality, and so on. And I think it started there. So and at university, I had from 71 to 72. I had 1 year of. It was a teacher. He was a philosopher, and he was teaching in the concept of diseases. That's for the first time in history, I think. We had in medicine a studium. We had these kind of things. So I learned how it influenced your values, your look upon sicknesses, illnesses, from what kind of concept of disease you have. So what we talked about for some days ago, it's a normal in the medicine house to talk about the biological model, the black box model. You look at the body as a black box, you put something in, see what happens. Medicines and whatever, you see what happens. You don't know what's happened, but you see what happens. And that's the same look or what to say, ideology that the health system is built on, also mental health mainly. To see you have some symptoms, come to the system, we fix it. And it's very contrary to the more what you call a three-dimensional way of looking upon illness, where you have the biology, you have the psychology, you have the sociology, the social way of living, and looking at these three equally dynamic, connected things. So it means that if you have some loss in your biology, you can compensate it with the psychology and the sociology, and in between all these things. So it's a more multidisciplinary system of looking at things.
Now we're talking about open dialogue.
Yeah.
And I learned that you can have different roles when you talk about things.
Yeah.
So I can ask you as Rael.
Yeah.
I can ask you as a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I can ask you as a husband.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
business partner to your wife with your clinic.
Yeah.
So I still want to stick to the psychiatrist profession. So as a psychiatrist, today with peerů, you have this open dialogue clinic.
Yeah.
Why did you set up open dialogue?
That's because I through the last since 92, 93, when we took this education with Tom, I see that's the most successful way of be a helper to the people, and to see people, families found out themselves and found some other ways to live their lives, have some other dialogue than they had before, and have the power to see this, because that's my power, to see people are changing, and they have been working themselves. I be a partner in this work. That's powerful.
I understand reflective processes are part of open dialogue. What is it that you think is so exciting about reflective processes? What is it that makes it useful?
First, I can say that what I talked about yesterday was pinpointing how we try to arrange for reflecting processes in the meaning of different voices having opportunity to be into a sharing position. How do we invite people to come into meetings that makes it possible for them to find their own voice, share their opinion, and for the other ones to listen and to be have a position that they can be responsive listening to what is said, and sharing from their own point of view in the next turn.
From your speaking about organizational readiness, we talked about there's the need for the shift of paradigm, which relates to changing the system in a way. How would you say, what would be the more natural way you think in the context of maybe our country you view it? Is it that it's the people that make the changes, or is it some organizational changes and organizational readiness that we have in order to bring changes?
I think the challenge is the complexity of it. I think instead of thinking of open dialogue as a new method to be implemented, I think it's more applicable to think of open dialogue as part of a larger social movement for human rights for people suffering from mental distress. I think you have to involve the peer and survivor organizations. I think there has to be a fundamental change in the way we understand mental distress, not as a disease or a sickness or even an illness, but as a means of coping from adversity and trauma, and respecting that and admiring that instead of diagnosing it and stigmatizing it.
We think of you as a team, maybe we tend to view you as experts. You're the academic expert, or Ralph is the psychiatric expert. But you had the idea of, you brought in idea of, we're no experts. Get rid of the label experts. Can you comment on that? How did you mean that?
I think being an expert often creates a distance. It accentuates a power differential that is already there. I think one of the most important attitudes and values we can have is one of respect for never really being able to understand the complexity of another person's life. So I can be an expert in many fields, but when I'm working to help another person who is experiencing a crisis, I will never be an expert in that context, because it's about the individual person's life, and they are the only experts in that area.
Which brings me to another question. You've say, I am at the start of open dialogue. This was my first session. This is my first noticing of it. Now you've walked some path. You've been doing it for 20 years. What helped you in taking open dialogue as it is meant, or as it should work? Because there are also maybe bad practices of open dialogue. What helped you move forward? What helped you develop this?
Trial and error. I think anyone that works with and for other people has to be willing to risk failure, but do so honestly. And so I have misunderstood and made many mistakes along the way, and the ability to apologize and start again in all humility, I think is what brings you forward. And if you do that with a group of people that are also forgiving and caring and compassionate and willing to help you get up again when you fall, then development comes naturally. And that's one of the joys of working with open dialogue, is it tends to attract a lot of very caring and compassionate people, so you get a lot of help along the way.
I asked Ralph, throughout your long practice, where you must have been through many trainings or many types of therapies and things. What made it unique for you to just take open dialogue? It could have been something else or many things, you know. And he said, you know, he's got a lot of inspiration even in the 70s. But open dialogue is about here and now, and we have generation, and we have 2017. So, what do you think is it that makes open dialogue relevant in here and now, in 2017?
I think it represents a real antidote to the social distress we are experiencing, the disappearance of compassionate and caring social relationships, the isolation and the fragmentation that many people experience, the loneliness which is almost epidemic within our society today. So open dialogue, I think, develops to fill the vacuum that many people are feeling. Open dialogue is about creating meaningful relationships, and we know that there are many people who lack that in their lives.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, there was one thing that I think is central to the open dialogue approach, which sometimes we joke about it because it is such a simple yet difficult challenge. And we say that most of the open dialogue training is really about just becoming more human. And I think that's one of the things that's always attracted me to open dialogue, is it is relevant not only in my professional work, but also in my private life. And if I can't practice it in my private life, then I probably shouldn't preach it in my professional life. So open dialogue is not simply a method that we can apply at work, but it's something that we can take home with us. It's something that we can use to create better relationships, to become better fathers, to become better partners, to become better citizens, and hence make society a better place to live in.